Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be watching a video called What Are Dutch People Like? And start.
Nederlanders hebben een koud hart.
Friendly, welcoming, down to earth.
Very different what you
But
just
the
said.
directness is something to get used to.
Een hele open, eerlijke en nuchtere mensen, denk ik.
Hoe zijn Nederlanders in vergelijking met mensen uit andere landen?
Ik denk dat wij als Nederlanders best wel eigenwijs zijn. We weten het bijna altijd wel beter. Dat zag je ook wel, denk ik, aan het begin van de pandemie. Alle landen om ons heen die deden het anders en wij moesten het op onze eigen manier doen.
Alle landen om ons heen gingen dan bijvoorbeeld in lockdown.
Ja.
En nou, wij waren de intelligente Nederlanders die dat allemaal niet hoefden.
Oh ja, de intelligente lockdown.
Ja, de intelligente lockdown,
Never heard
precies.
of that.
Ja.
Maar op het begin waren we het er wel mee eens. Wij dachten, ja, beter.
Wij weten het beter.
Well, in my experience, I can say that Dutch people are very friendly. German people not always, but I think if I can compare it to Germany, they are very friendly and very helpful and just nice people overall. No bad experience whatsoever.
Wat zijn de karakteristieken van Nederlanders ten opzichte van mensen uit de rest van de wereld? Wat is jullie ervaring daarmee?
Nederlanders hebben een koud hart.
Oké, en in welke zin kan je een voorbeeld geven?
Je wordt nooit bij iemand thuis uitgenodigd.
Met welke landen vergelijk je dat dan?
Ja, ik denk Zuid-Europese landen, islamitische landen. Waar je voor de thee uitgenodigd wordt, voor het eten en voor het slapen.
En dan heb je het vooral over iemand die je net ontmoet hebt en die je dan zomaar uitnodigt.
Ja, dat zou je hier niet zien. Ik werk in Amsterdam met internationale mensen. En ik zie daar toch duidelijk wel een verschil in openheid.
in contact with different people.
Dat verbaast ons ook steeds.
Ik ben half Nederlands, half Iers in Duitsland geboren. Ik zou zeggen dat Nederlanders heel individueel zijn. Dus ze denken uit hunzelf, ze hebben hun eigen identiteit en dat is voor hun ook heel belangrijk. En in andere landen zoals Ierland is het meer van hoe pas je bij Ierse cultuur en hier doe je het zo en je moet je aanpassen.
Ik denk altijd dat Nederlanders best wel ietsjes arrogant. Trots misschien.
Een beetje zelf ingenomen.
Dat vind ik wel als negatief. Hè? Maar,
maar dat,
he's like in a bad way.
Dat is het leuke ook, een beetje gebalanceerd perspectief. Hoe zijn Nederlanders in het algemeen?
Ik denk dat Nederlanders, vooral als het aankomt op nationaliteit, dat je dan heel erg merkt dat
He's like the second person to say this.
Nederlanders een stuk meer bij hunzelf zijn. Want ik ben bijvoorbeeld zelf half Servisch en half Italiaans. En dat zijn hele open culturen die heel veel met elkaar delen. En ik merk dat Nederlanders dan weer, het heeft ook een beetje met gierigheid te maken, denk ik. De Nederlanders zijn er wat minder uitbundiger in.
Meer uitbundig in het sociale, maar ook in het geld uitgeven. Dus,
They're frugal
Wij hebben
in every aspect.
We houden het ook heel erg voor onszelf. Terwijl er zijn ook heel veel mensen die weinig hebben, maar dat wat ze hebben met anderen delen, zeg maar, in de wereld. En ik vind dat wij dat eigenlijk heel weinig doen.
I think the Dutch people are very direct, very blunt, but also very welcoming. I've lived in a lot of different countries.
Oh my God, she says they're very welcoming.
The Dutch to be one of the more welcoming people that I've come across.
How about you? Do you have anything to add?
I am Dutch, of course. So no, but I think if I see how she is doing conversations in English, they are so much more polite. While we as Dutch people don't think and just throw it out, and because then that's the quickest way to get your info.
Then the benefit of being with the Dutch is that you know exactly where you stand. There's no confusion. Do they really mean this when they say this? The Dutch, they say what they mean.
Sometimes then I had to say to you oh no, they don't mean it that way, because you thought it's like almost
insulting. Angry, but it's not.
Like offensive.
Wat vinden jullie van Nederlanders in vergelijking met mensen uit andere landen?
Ik vind dat we open-minded zijn eigenlijk.
Ja, ik denk dat we soms een beetje ongenuanceerd zijn in onze uitspraken. We zijn best wel redelijk recht door zee. Dus, en we hebben best ook wel een mening. Maar goed, maar dat kan je wel over de hele wereld kan je er wel wat van zeggen. Alleen wij spreken het eerder uit, denk ik dan. Dat er veel landen om ons heen dat doen. Wat ik ook wel weer leuk vind is what you see is what you get. Zo van dat bij Amerikanen bijvoorbeeld.
Ik snap wat je bedoelt.
Een
masker voor. En van, wat zijn we allemaal gezellig. En dat hoeft nou ook weer niet.
Ja.
Ik vind het ook wel heel fijn, die nuchterheid. En dat vind ik ook wel vrij Nederlands.
Ja, ik snap wat je bedoelt.
Ja.
Een beetje meer waar je aan toe bent.
Weet je waar je aan toe bent. Ja.
Ik denk dat we onze talen wel goed op orde hebben. De meeste Nederlanders spreken Engels.
Ja.
En vaak ook nog wel eens Frans en Duits.
Okay.
Dus wij hebben best wel veel buitenlandse vrienden. En die benoemen dat ook altijd. Dat wij Nederlanders goed onze talen
Because it's a very hard language, so learning everything else is like
en
super
daardoor
easy.
waarschijnlijk ook wat meer benaderbaar zijn dan ook.
Ik denk dat Nederlanders in principe eigenlijk wel heel erg gastvrij zijn.
Nou ja, welke
naar toeristen toe, zeg maar.
Ja, ik ben het nu een dag of 2 aan het doen. En mensen staan best wel open om een gesprek aan te gaan. Dus ik denk als je mensen aanspreekt, dan is het best wel open eigenlijk.
Andere mooie dingen in Nederland zijn, is dit denk ik wel de seizoenen.
Seizoenen?
Ja.
Oh, oké. Ik vind deze winter niet zo mooi eerlijk gezegd.
Oh yeah, like is it just raining all the time?
Met de lampjes in de kou en als het lang droog is het wel fijn denk ik.
Wat zeg je?
Zo met de lampjes en de lichtjes in december is het allemaal gezellig.
Dat is wel mooi inderdaad. Ja, soms, als het een beetje schemerig wordt met die lampjes, dat kan best wel mooi zijn.
Gezellig.
We zeiden nog toen we hier binnenkwamen, maar binnenliepen van kijk, hier houden we van.
Ja, dat is best wel mooi. Best wel een mooie stad inderdaad.
Ja. That's so nice.
Ik heb een vriend die woont in Finland dan. En ik dacht van, als ik het dan met Finland vergelijk, dan is het best wel een heel mooi karakteristieke stad. Met al die lichtjes en die gebouwen.
Zeker, is natuurlijk ook heel erg leuk en inderdaad.
And the winter is less harsh.
Ja. Ik denk dat ze als Nederlander ook gewoon eens wat trots op moeten zijn op ons land.
Dat vind ik ook. Het is hier fijn.
Ja, behalve gisteren en eergisteren en die dag ervoor, want toen regende het de hele tijd.
Dat is minder. Ja, daar moeten we het ook mee doen.
Hoort er ook bij, daar kan je niks aan veranderen.
Nee. Okay. Nou, bedankt voor jullie tijd.
Ja, graag succes.
Okay.
Okay, this is very interesting. I like that it was just a mix between like both people, foreigners and both Dutch. It was in the Netherlands, but he also like interviewed people that haven't either living there that are not from there originally, or maybe tourists. I don't know. But it's very interesting. I think most of them were like they're very direct, which good. But I think it's good for them. Like that they are aware that they're very direct. But like the girl was like one of the girls was like it can be a little harsh like to get used to it because it's direct. So again, it has a good side. It has a good side and also a bad side. There's positives and there's negatives. Like for coming from them because they're used to it, they're gonna think it's good. Like in general. Because what you're saying, like you're not gonna be faking anything. Like if I'm asking you a question, a Dutch person, like a Dutch people is gonna answer me in the most direct ways. They're gonna be honest, but they're not gonna sugarcoat anything. They're not gonna try to be nice or maybe give you an answer that because if you don't like the answer, they're not gonna like say, hey, well, maybe if you like do it this way. No, they're gonna be like, hey, what you're doing maybe like it's a terrible choice, it's a terrible decision, and you should just do this instead. So I think that's an example. So for them, it's like it's good because you're not faking anything and it's all super honest and it's all very direct, which for us is great because again they're used to it. But coming from someone who's not that used to this kind of conversation or connection or whatever, like they're not used to that type of honesty. Like the girl that was saying, like it can be hard to to understand them because you're gonna be thinking, oh my god, did they meant this in a bad way? Because maybe in my example, like the answer, the example I put before, like it's not, you're not gonna be offended if someone tells you like, oh, or maybe you are, like if they tell you, hey, this is an awful, like what are you doing with your life that's terrible? Maybe you're gonna be thinking, oh my god, are they calling me dumb? But maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're gonna be telling you, hey, that decision or what you're thinking, it's incredibly stupid. And they're not going to be saying this in a bad way. Like they're not calling you like, oh my god, like use your brain. But they're just like, you're telling me and I'm answering you like completely honest. So it's, but from the other end that it's you hearing that answer, you're gonna be like, oh my god, can you please tell me like this in a nicer way? Like it doesn't have to be like, oh my god, like you're playing stupid. But obviously you take it differently because I think maybe most people, people that are not from the Netherlands, they take it differently and they take it like, oh my god, they're pretty, it can be pretty offensive. But maybe if it's more about like, hey, like, does this color look nice on me? Maybe they're gonna be like, no, it looks awful, like, take it off, you look so ugly. It's gonna be like, oh my god, like, what do they mean? Like, are it's offensive, it's bad, they're gonna make you feel bad. But they're not making you feel bad. It's just like the way they are. So I do think that it can be a little hard to get used to it, especially if you're not aware that they are like that. But it's funny that almost all of them said that. So I think it's definitely, that's gotta be true because all of them said it. But it's funny how one of them, I think several of them actually, were like, oh, they're cold-hearted in a way that's more, but maybe it's not cold-hearted, maybe that's not the expression. It's more about them being a little closed off, you know, like they're not gonna invite strangers to their homes. You know, I'm not gonna tell you, yeah, I'm gonna tell you, yeah, like sleep on the couch, like you had way too much to drink, whatever, just like sleep it off, like go home in the morning. Or maybe like, oh, I don't know, just take for dinner, like I'm invited you to dinner. Maybe they're not, and apparently they're not like that. And he said, especially compared to other cultures. But one of them actually was like, they're super nice with tourists. So it's funny that they were like, it's true, like it's the opposite, because I think two people were like, they're super nice with tourists, which, you know, it's a little bit in contrast with what the guy said, like, oh, they're very closed off. But maybe I think it depends. And there was also a girl that was like, I think they're super friendly, especially compared to other cultures. But I don't know where she has been, because I think maybe the guy and he was Dutch, and he was like, I should know because I am in contact. I work with a lot of like international people, so I am aware of the difference between like Dutch people and, you know, people from other places. So he was like, I speak with authority, which is funny because obviously the other people are gonna be like, well, that's just my experience. But maybe it's a cultural thing, and maybe he's been in contact with people from other cultures that are maybe super friendly and super open, and the other people were like, oh, they're super nice with me, and they're very open in general. So maybe they've been in places that are very closed off, and maybe I have to say I don't really know where exactly those people are from. So I think that really does depend, because if you're from an equally close culture, then obviously, and they're like maybe a little friendlier, of course you're going to be thinking, wow, they're so open. But I think maybe, like he said, if you come from, you know, maybe like a Southern European country, which, you know, putting that as an example, because people tend to be very friendly there, friendly and open and very like, yes, they'll take you under their wing, then it's going to be maybe a culture shock coming here and be like, oh my god, you would think people are very closed off because they're not going to invite you for dinner. They're not going to tell you yes, you know, like if stay to eat, and maybe like you go and have dinner at their house, and like they'll send you with leftovers. Like that's, I think, normal in some places, and I wouldn't expect maybe like Dutch people to be like that. So it can be quite a shock. But I think everything depends on your baseline and what you're used to. But it was very, very enlightening. I think it's funny that they're almost all of them were like, they're very like also very, I think maybe that relates to the directness, that they're very like, they think very highly of themselves, and they are very opinionated maybe, and they do their own thing. I think that all goes hand in hand with the whole directness. It's all about like, hey, maybe there's a sense of superiority there, like we know better. And, you know, again, not all of them, but I think in general it's like we know better. Or maybe it's just like we don't really care about what people think. Like what it relates to the stubbornness is like, we don't really care what you're telling me, because I think that I know better and I am capable of making like my own choices. And people, maybe that's where it stems from. But this was incredibly interesting. I think it's funny that a lot of people, in some things, all of them said the same thing. And in others, it's like, no, they're complete opposites. So it's like, well, yeah, you need to make like a statistic to make like, hey, yeah, but what do you think? You think like this? And where are you from originally? And, you know, maybe compare that to what the other person was saying, and be like, and do like a whole thing and a whole study. But just like taking it like this, in like this face value, just random people on the street, I think is very interesting. What's the common like trait in almost everyone says that, and what's like the opposite of some people say this and some people say the other. Maybe also that has to do with like obviously each individual person. So that makes me think, you know what, it's not a monolith, and it's not as hard placed like as you think. Like it really does depend on the person, and some Dutch people are very nice and friendly, and some others are like very closed off and be like, no, there's gonna be a barrier until I actually get to know you, and then I get to call you my friend. But yeah, incredibly interesting. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.